Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Vanilla Minecraft, episode number 16, I do believe. And today we're back here on my island to work out that project that I said I wanted to do last time, but didn't quite have the time for. So I'm still not sure I'll have the time to finish it 100% this week, because I have been formatting my computer and trying out new software and hardware stuff. Might talk to you guys a little bit more about that later on, but for right now, first things first, what is this big project I've been talking about? Well, surprisingly enough, it's actually going to be an enchanting room. Now, enchanting rooms in general don't sound very exciting, because while they are a cool theme, the limitations of the enchanting table itself make them kind of bland. They mean that you only have a few options to really work with. For example, here in my storage room, we have the one that has the pop-up bookshelves around the outside, and while that works really nice and it's kind of cool, it's also kind of boring, because you've seen it a million times before, right? And there's not much variance you can really have with them. That being said, I think I've come up with an interesting way to present an enchanting room. And I've actually started on it just a little bit to save us a bit of time. I made a cave down to some space that I hollowed out. And here's the cave. It's the same direction as our brewing room, just kind of branching off in a different direction. And obviously I haven't finished the cave yet. And we'll also probably be adding an alternate way to get down here via ender pearls or something, because it is really inconvenient to have to walk all this way just to reach an enchanting table. But you get down here, you walk through, and here's the space I've hollowed out so far. You can kind of ignore those dispensers for the time being. But you may be wondering, now that we've walked all the way down here, why do we need this much space when an enchanting system only really takes up 5 by 5? And that is a perfectly valid question. But honestly, this room's about to get quite a bit bigger, mostly vertically. Specifically, we're going to take this outer ring here, everything that's not this elevated platform in the middle, and we're going to start lowering it. In fact, we're going to lower it all the way down to bedrock, which is about 40 blocks or so. We're at Y39 right now. And we're going to lower that all the way down and leave only this central platform up at this level. And then we're going to build a bridge going over to this cave over here. So basically what that's going to do is we're going to walk through this cave, walk out this way, and then we'll have a bridge we can go across, but everything else in the room is just going to drop straight down into a crazy deep pit. Now, we're going to do some other cool detail stuff down there as well, but we'll cover that when we get to it. First things first, we need to start digging, and the way that we're going to do that is by coming up here and pushing a button, and hoping that none of this redstone gets destroyed. Ooh, I lost quite a bit of redstone, didn't I? Dang it. I was afraid of that. Better go pick up the TNT. So that's what we're going to do. Hopefully now that I've done that once, we won't lose redstone anymore. Ooh, I should have dug down a little bit deeper. That's okay. That's okay. But I'm going to go ahead and rebuild this structure that I just blew up after I make sure that I pick up all the TNT so it doesn't go to waste. I think I got it. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to refix this system that I just blew up, and then I'm going to push that button about 39 more times so that our platform goes all the way down to basically bedrock level. I'll build up this platform that got a little bit more destroyed than I thought it would. How did I miscalculate the TNT so badly? Anyway, I'm going to go take care of all of that, clean up the mess left behind by the TNT after I do all of that, and probably clean up the cave walls a little bit, make them feel a little more cave-like. They won't necessarily be completed, but it shouldn't feel like a giant cylinder when I'm done. And then I'll be back with you guys to move on to the next step. So here's what our cave is looking like so far, and I think it's going okay. There's definitely some changes that need to be made. For example, I think the leaves need to be toned down a little bit. I went a little overboard because I was trying to cover up as many of these little light holes as I possibly could, and it just ended up being a bit much. So I'll probably go in and try and clean that up a little bit yet. The gemstones I'm unsure of as well. The diamonds I think stand out a little bit too much, though the emeralds, there's one for example. The emeralds, I think, blend in relatively well because they match the leaf color. So I don't think those are too bad. The diamonds just kind of feel a little overbearing. But I'm going to leave them in for right now. Maybe I'll get used to them once I see them for a little while. I don't think they're terrible by any means, so we'll see. But that is the cave walls. I also went ahead and added in these 2 waterfalls, which was a very spontaneous decision because once I had the walls in place, they felt a little bit bland. It felt like everything was just kind of one big wall. So having them broken up a little bit by some waterfalls is kind of nice. And it turns out that was actually a really good decision because having the water flowing down and falling all the way down really helped out our glass fog that we added. So I really like how this actually turned out. Unfortunately, the grid lines are a little bit more prominent than I thought they were going to be, but that's okay. We do actually have the option, since I have Optifine installed, to go into video settings, I believe it's quality, and connected textures. So once our textures go ahead and reload, I'll be able to click that again and go to done. And that's what it looks like without the grid lines, which is a million times better. Now, normally I don't really like doing this. I don't like depending on Optifine or shaders or resource packs to make a build look good. But because we're doing that anyway, and Optifine just makes it look way better, I think we might stick with that. And honestly, I think the connected glass is just better in general anyway, and it's another one of those Optifine features that I think should really be in vanilla. But anyway, that is our fog, and if you're not aware of how that's done, because I know that for a long time it was a very obscure trick, basically, if we head down here, I placed down light gray stained glass, and the properties of the stained glass is basically that it's not fully transparent. So when you layer it over itself or layer it over other colors of stained glass, either, you could put, for example, different colors of stained glass in between each layer of light gray in this case, or as I did, just leave air pockets in between. The glass will actually add the color to it. The color will multiply as you go further down into the glass. And it means that the color gets more and more solid. So the further down we go, because there's 7 or 8 layers of glass here, the further down we go, the deeper the color gets, and you can't even really see the bottom. So even when you're down here, it feels like you're kind of looking into a fog, which is really, really cool. And of course, you can do way more with this trick as well. I believe the first time I was made aware of it was probably 3 to 3.5 years ago, and I saw someone do a really amazing looking glass gradient in their wall, and it was so good looking. We need to find more excuses to do that. But for right now, that's what we got, this kind of cool looking fog effect. And with that, I think we're going to call it done on the cave itself for the time being, because I've been spending a crazy amount of time on it, and our enchanting cave still doesn't have any enchanting going on, which is a bit of a shame. So let's go ahead and fix that. Now, our enchanting table is going to go right here in the middle, and the glowstone will shine through that because it's a transparent block, which is lovely. But now we have the problem of bookshelves. And as I described before, bookshelves are kind of limiting. It's really kind of unfortunate how limiting the enchanting system really is as far as the build goes, because you can only really place the bookshelves in these blocks. That one? Yeah. These blocks out here, right? This ring going around the enchanting table and all the way around, and of course up to 2 blocks tall. But that's all you can really do with it, which means that there's only a few combinations that you usually see when it comes to bookshelves around enchanting tables, because you just don't have many options. So I thought about this quite a lot. I was trying to think of a way that we could make this work here on our islands, because not only are there very few options for the arrangement of the bookshelves, but the bookshelves themselves just don't really look good here on my islands. They don't really match the theme. Like this magical ancient cavern that I want to have here, having bookshelves in here just doesn't really look good. I mean, it looks kind of weird, right? It feels a little bit out of place to just have a modern bookshelf here. So I thought about this quite a lot, and I think I have a good solution for it, other than just hiding them with redstone or anything like that, which is what I did up in my storage room. But I think that we can have a rather unique arrangement if we build them in 2 tall pillars around the outside like so. And obviously this looks a little bit strange. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for the bookshelves to be positioned like this, nor does it actually solve the problem of bookshelves themselves looking weird. And like I said, that's a bit of a problem here on the island, but I think I have a good solution for it. But in order to do this, we're going to need to leave my island. So let's go out here through the little cheaty hole, which I don't know that I explained before, but I added in a little area where we could ender pearl in and out just to make things quicker. Obviously, I need to make that look like a crack through the wall, but anyway, we're going to head off of the island now and head a few thousand blocks away in order to do something that's going to help us make those bookshelves look a lot cooler and fit our theme a lot better. This is going to be a bit of a trek and a bit of an intensive project, so I need to get some things prepared, and I'll be back with you guys once we're ready to go. Okay, so here we are at a bit of a dirt path that I've kind of set up ahead of time, and some of you may know what this is for, and you may know what's about to happen. For the rest of you, though, we only have one real option when it comes to covering up those bookshelves. We can't place anything in between them and the enchanting table, or it'll block off their levels, and I don't really want to try and move them around with redstone or anything crazy like that, and I don't even think we'd have the room to pull that off. So we have to cover them up, and there's only one way that we can do that, and that is with item frames and maps. So, if you're not aware of how this works, basically when you put a map in an item frame, it fills up the entire side of the block. Now, unfortunately, the item frame itself is still sticking out, and you get a little bit of a birch border on the sides, but it's not the end of the world. I think we'll be able to live with that. I think it'll look okay, hopefully. I did try to work that into the design, but it just really didn't work out too well. Anyway, to better explain what I'm talking about here, because I haven't really started, what we're going to be doing is placing maps in item frames along the sides of our bookshelves. And what that's going to do is allow us to completely cover up the bookshelf texture and replace it with whatever we want. So, for example, if I were to go and take this map, which we're currently in right now, you can see me down in the bottom left corner of it, as well as the dirt path that we're on. If I were to take this map and put it on the ends or the sides of all of our bookshelves that we just placed down inside of item frames, our pillars would all be solid blue, minus the little dirt stripe at the bottom. They would be solid blue with a little brown line through them. And you wouldn't see the bookshelf texture at all. You would just see the birch on the corners and the blue and the brown. That's all you would see. So what that really means is that we can replace this blue with anything we want, and that's what'll show up on the sides of our bookshelves. Now, this is quite a task, obviously. This is a 128 by 128 area that we're going to need to cover, which I believe equates to like 16,000 some blocks that we need to place. And unfortunately, it's actually going to be twice that number, because I'm going to need to place down cobble in the right spots for all of this, and then I'm going to need to place blocks on top of that, because we're going to need to use light gray carpets as well as iron pressure plates, the weighted pressure plates. Now, hopefully I have enough resources to do this. I know I need more cobble here, but I need to place down all of those blocks in very specific patterns and in very specific positions throughout this entire area. And what we're going to end up with is a stone texture. A texture that looks very much just like default stone. It's going to be a little bit off because we can't make it quite as detailed or as dark as regular stone. It's going to be just a little bit lighter and a little bit less detailed because maps do not have a very big color palette, which is a bit of a bummer, but it still looks pretty close. I don't think most people would really be able to tell the difference. So we're going to do that. That's going to be step number 1. We're going to get just a solid stone texture. And then from there, once I have that map saved, because we should be able to get multiple maps out of this process, I'm going to try and add in some kind of runic looking symbols over the top of it. Just a couple of them, like 2 on each side or something like that. And then we can place that down the sides of the pillars, and we should end up with these kind of stone pillars that look like they have runes carved into the sides, and those will still be powering our enchanting table, which will also have the little galactic alphabet characters floating out of them, which makes them look really magical. So that should look pretty cool. It's also going to be an insanely large task. So, well, I'm going to go get to it. Okay, so here is our mapping monstrosity that I've created, and honestly that took a lot longer than I thought it was going to. Mostly due to my own mistakes, honestly. There was a few times where I had to spend several hours trying to fix an issue that I just could not find the source of. And that's mostly because of the way that I created this. Turns out that doing things with a cobblestone base layer, which I pretty much had to in order to use the gray carpets and the iron pressure plates, but it also made things very tricky because it's hard to tell where you are in the map, and there was also certain nuances about how to position these staircases that kept throwing me off. So these staircases, by the way, if you're not familiar with the concept of map art, are actually necessary for creating things that have a lot of color. So let's go ahead and take a look at our map and what the output was. So this is the end result. Now it is, like I said before, a little bit lighter and a little bit less detailed than real stone. Like, if you have them side by side, you can easily tell the difference, which is kind of unfortunate, but it's a limitation of the map's color palette. So, for example, if we come over here to these pressure plates, these have a set color in the map. And I think that by default, there's only like 30 some colors that you can work with, maybe 40. And you're kind of stuck with those colors, but you can add one extra shade lighter and darker for each color by putting a block above or below them to the north. So, for example, if you look here, right now we're on top of these iron pressure plates, and the area on the map that we're on is lighter. Yet up here, where we're also on iron pressure plates, it's a lot darker. And that's because these iron pressure plates are looking to the north, and they see that there's a block higher up than them, so they go a shade darker. So that's something that you can do to add a little bit of extra color, but unfortunately it's still pretty limiting. Even with gray, like stone, which is still the most prominent color, the one with the most shades you can work with, it's still really hard to have tons of little detail, at least with stuff like this. So that's a bit of a bummer, but I think that for our purposes, it'll work just fine, especially once we add in our own details. Because, like I said earlier, I do want to add in, like, runes or something along those lines on top of this, but I'm still not quite sure how I want to do that. I don't know if I want them going down the sides or down the middle or just one big one in the middle. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute, because I'm actually going to head back to my island now and pop this on the bookshelves just so we can see what it looks like to have these stone pillars there. Unfortunately, we're not going to get to put the runes on today just because that's going to take an insane amount of time by itself. And between the cave cleanup earlier and building this huge thing, I am way beyond the amount of time that is reasonable to spend in a video. In fact, I'm already a full day late. So I'm going to go ahead and head back to the island, and I'll get back with you guys once I'm there. Alright, so let's go ahead and put these on just one pillar, actually, because we're not going to be using this texture for this. We're not going to be using tons of this specific map, because this is just the base stone texture. And we can actually keep this texture separate, by the way. As long as we don't update this map or any of the duplicates of it, this map will only ever be this base stone texture. So when we go back and add in our extra details, we'll create new maps of it, and that way we can actually get multiple maps out of our stone texture and just change the details on top, and it'll be a lot less work in order to get more variance. So that's what we're going to do with that. And that is what it looks like down here. That is a little bit brighter than I thought it was going to be. I'm kind of surprised at how prominent that really looks. Though, that might actually be kind of cool. It almost looks like it's glowing, honestly. That might work out even better, having a glowing stone pillar. Of course, once we add the details in, it'll probably help things look a little more interesting. I'm still not entirely sure what we'll do with that. I'm kind of thinking of having galactic alphabet characters. Those are the little characters that float out of bookshelves towards the enchanting table. Something like that, kind of carved down the sides, I think would look okay. Or maybe even just one big one in the middle, and then have a few different variants that can go all over our bookshelves. I think that'll probably look good, and at the very least, it looks way better than having our bookshelves down here. Of course, there is still the issue of capping it off, because we don't want the wood texture showing, and we probably want something on top. I did grab a few things, but I'm not sure what would look best up here. Well, first off, I think we'll probably make these pillars a block taller and have the maps go up a block taller. And then we'll cap it off with that, though I think the cobble is a little too dark. What about stone brick? That might be a little too dark as well. Huh. Stone slabs actually might work really, really well for this, come to think of it. So we'll have to try that out. But as I said before, I am way beyond out of time today. So we'll try that out next time once we get the runes in place and we know what we're doing. Of course, if you have any suggestions for what we should texture this with, be sure to tell me. Because, as always, I love hearing your ideas, as well as any ideas for the cave itself, because, of course, I will be going through here and trying to clean things up and finish them up a little bit more yet. And, yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. So, hopefully you have enjoyed today's video. Hopefully I will see you guys next time. And, yeah, it's been great. Hope you have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you guys next time.